Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Hi everyone, welcome back to another GINX TV video. This time I'm joined by Shrey to talk about the Resident Evil 4 remake that is out today. Shay has been lucky enough to review it for us, so I'm kind of really intrigued to see what you think of it. So Shrey, give us your brief thoughts having played through the game from start to finish.
Hey James, so I really like this one. I was kind of skeptical going into this one, especially since I've played the original a couple of times, and I was like, will it be able to capture the essence of the original? Will it still live up to the standard that it set 18 years ago? It delivers on all aspects. I think it's a very thoughtfully made remake that not just modernizes the original for a new set of audience, but it also makes enough changes to cater it to the people, the original hardcore fans of the original. Yeah.
So it's not like a one-for-one remake then, like they have changed some parts of it from what I understand.
Yeah, they've made quite a couple of changes to this game, not just quality of life changes, those are different, but they have rearranged some of the story bits and they have like scrapped some boss battles and some encounters from the game, which I don't know how a lot of people like. I personally enjoyed and appreciated all the changes, but I don't know how other people are gonna react to that.
I was going to ask, like, as someone that's played through it a lot before in terms of the original, like, you wasn't phased then by any of the kind of the changes they made. Like, presumably it all made sense and made the game. It benefited the game by making these changes.
It definitely does. I feel like it was hard to recommend the original to other people because it was so limiting in plenty of ways. I mean, you couldn't run and gun in that game, and there were plenty of other things. When I played the original, I felt like, oh, this could have been like different. And they have made all these changes in this game. Like, aside from the ability to now run and gun, you can just crouch and you can there's a new parry system that actually kind of changes the game a lot. They have added a lot of new elements to the game that makes gameplay a lot more interesting and engaging than it was in the original.
Is it just like the mechanics that have changed, or have they altered the story at all? Like, obviously without spoiling anything for people that might want to pick this up on launch, but has the story changed at all?
Well, the main plot pretty much remains the same, but they have rearranged some of the bits, and I feel like the changes that they've made kind of makes a lot of sense, but there are just a little bit of changes that I feel like I don't know how other people are gonna react. It's not something groundbreaking that totally changes the main plot or something, but yeah, there are a few things that have changed.
In terms of, like, replayability, do you feel like that helps it then, because they have tweaked enough? Like, I think I remember talking to you previously, and like you said that you'd kind of done it on the hardest mode possible, and I imagine you kind of maybe played through it once, then went back and did it again on kind of the hardest settings. Presumably it's still the same fantastic game from before that you felt like you wanted to jump back into it straight away.
Definitely, yeah. I feel like I had forgotten bits and pieces of why I actually loved the original back in the day. But this kind of, aside from all the new gameplay changes aside, I this kind of constantly reminded me why this game is so good. I feel like every encounter in this game is really different from another, and the level designs are really intricate, and they have actually expanded quite a bit from the original. I think the technology has allowed them to make couple of changes to the environments and some of the areas in the game, and there's also few new places, optional places that you can like go, and there's some extra enemy encounters and some challenges to complete.
It's interesting because, like, they remade Resi 2 and Resi 3, but you could almost argue that those games were so old that in updating them, they really completely changed kind of how the game was compared to like those old sort of PS1 style graphics and everything that kind of came with that. Do you feel like it still justifies its remake though? because clearly it sounds like they've kind of not just modernized it and updated it, but they've actually taken the kind of time and care to change little bits enough to kind of make it a brand new experience.
So going back to like the first thing I mentioned, there have been a lot of quality of life changes and changes to the gameplay in particular that actually makes it worth visiting for like any hardcore fan, I guess. They have actually, I feel like, doubled down on being agile in this game.
Was there anything about the game that you didn't like, or was there anything that maybe you wish they hadn't changed as much, or anything that maybe just didn't quite hit the mark, perhaps?
Well,
Or is it all flawless?
no, definitely there's few things that really didn't click with me, and I, before even like playing this game, I kind of knew this was going to be the case. Main thing that I feel like a lot of people, especially people who played the original, are not gonna like is the new voice work of all the characters.
A most warm welcome to my castle, Mr. Kennedy. Who the hell are you? Me?
I don't exactly remember who voiced the original. I think it was Paul Mercier, the one who played Leon. So he had a more like flamboyant and charming kind of witty voice, and he brought that to Leon's personality. And this guy, Nick Apostolids, he brings a different vibe to Leon, and people really love the one-liners and all that dumb shits that Leon used to say in the originals.
But I'm afraid it's Ashley we need. Not you, Mr. Kennedy.
If you don't need me, then get off my back, old man.
They feel out of sync here in this game because this guy isn't able to pull off those lines that the original was able to pull off. And also, the Leon in this game is kind of more grounded, and he's more like, you know, I'm a depressed guy, and he's like reeling through the events of the second game, and so it kind of feels out of sync when he's like talking about how disturbed he is and still like haunted by the events of the part 2, and then he suddenly drops, oh, everybody's going to play bingo. So it kind of feels out of sync in this game. And I feel like the other characters as well, Ada Wong in particular, she kind of like brought this, you know, she sounded very sassy in a way and mysterious in a way that kind of worked for Ada Wong, and the new voice just feels a little bit off. That's something I feel like a lot of people are not gonna like.
Cool. I mean, that's quite interesting to know. I wouldn't have thought about that going in, but then maybe that's something, like you said, that it just jars with you as you're playing through it, and you kind of go, "Ooh, that's not quite that's not quite how I remember it, or it doesn't quite fit the vibe that they've kind of got going this time." But then, like those sort of small problems aside, though, like you gave it a 10 in your review, which everyone can read on GINX right now. But presumably, though, you're over the moon with how this remake's kind of turned out.
Yeah, definitely. This game, like I mentioned earlier, this game kind of constantly reminded me why it's so good, how everything works in this game. The level designs, the visuals, and like all the gameplay changes. It feels very premium and it feels very modern. And I feel like the games industry kind of really needs something like this. And I know we have had like Dead Space Remake, which is kind of a completely different game. This is more of a, you know, light-hearted action horror game, not a survival horror game. I wouldn't call it survival horror, even though Capcom insists they want to call it survival horror. But yeah, so I feel like this just fits the mold. People probably need something like this at the moment, and I know a lot of people are gonna compare this with Last of Us, and which is kind of weird because Last of Us was kind of inspired from this game, but I feel like this can stand out on its own for what it's worth.
Awesome. Well, look, thanks for jumping on and kind of telling us your thoughts with your review. Looking forward to whatever you've got reviewed coming up next. There's probably an embargo, which means we can't talk about that. But thanks everyone again for joining us on GINX. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can listen to all our future content coming up. We've got loads going on the channel. And thanks again. Bye.